Agad las ceann comhairle ní bhaidh mé ag tógáil an am go léir ba mé ag tógáil tóra Miss Carol Nolan. Minister, I welcome the opportunity to speak on this bill, which is at the very least a step in the right direction in terms of readdressing the power imbalance that has operated for decades in this state when it comes to consumer and financial institutions, be they banks, vulture funds, or indeed any other financial entity. In that sense, we can achieve the stated objectives of this bill around strengthening protections within the framework of the legislation that underpins the Financial Services and Pensions Ombudsman, so that it can continue to carry out its statutory functions in line with the Constitution. That will be a good day's work if we can achieve all of that. One of the issues that I would like clarity on, however, relates to operation and staffing of the Financial Services and Pensions Ombudsman. I think this is important because we can have all the legislation we like in here, but if the capacity of the FSPO remains limited, or if it simply has not the number of expert staff that it requires to assist the consumer or the small business, then at best the process will amount to a form of hypocrisy. We know, for example, that in providing a dispute resolution service to assist the resolution of complaints by mediation, the FSPO does so through the work of the dispute resolution officers. I can only assume that the numbers of such officers is going to be significantly increased. Otherwise, the introduction of these amendments today, at least in terms of protections, will not be worth the paper they're written on. There are already serious backlogs and indeed time delays within the dispute resolution process. Is there a recruitment campaign to increase the staff? And perhaps you could revert to me with a reply on that particular question in due course, Minister. I want to welcome section 14 of the bill, which clarifies the respective remits of the Financial Services and Pensions Ombudsman and the Credit Reviewer. I think it is only right and proper that the Ombudsman may accept a complaint where a financial service provider or pension provider has initiated legal proceedings in order to frustrate or delay its investigation. This is the kind of process that financial service providers can engage in, and often do engage in. They have massive resources and they can tie an ordinary person or a small business in expensive knots for years. We need to actively and robustly discourage that kind of an approach. Again, as I have said from the onset, this bill must redress the gross power imbalance that currently exists. In terms of section 15A, requirement for financial service providers and pension providers to establish internal dispute resolution procedures for dealing with complaints and to publish their internal dispute resolution procedures, I find it incredible that currently there is no statutory obligation for pension providers to have IDR processes in place or for them to be publicly available. This is also one of those mechanisms that keeps ordinary people in the dark and effectively clueless about how to navigate the dispute process when they are engaging with financial services. Minister, the main point I want to make today is that we have lived for decades in a society where the might of banks and now vulture funds have effectively been allowed to operate with impunity against the interests of those in financial distress. In theory, we have any number of consumer protections and the central bank, etc. But in reality, it is those with the deepest pockets who usually triumph. The courts are full of people in absolute distress who feel they have been abandoned to a regulatory process that they do not understand and they cannot find justice within. That has to change. The legal weight of the state and its legislation has to be directed against any financial or pension provider who wants to burden ordinary taxpayers in a maze of complicated complaints resolution processes. If the bill here today can assist with changing that particular situation for people who are in distress, then it will be very welcome indeed, and it will certainly have my support if it does that. Garv Malgad.